In this video, I'm going to show you the simple math behind how to generate $1 million a year in your business. So whether your goal is to generate $1 million a year or $10 million a year, or even your first $100,000 a year, this video is going to break down the simple math and system I use behind every single successful business that I'm involved with to quickly scale them up and create profit-producing, money-making machines. All right, let's get to it. Hey there, my name is Adam Earhart, marketing strategist, and welcome to the channel, the #1 place for entrepreneurs to learn proven marketing strategies to grow their businesses online. So if that's something you're into, you may want to consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you never miss a future episode. All right, so let's dive in, starting with probably the most important and the most basic fundamental to creating $1 million business or $1 million a year generating sort of revenue stream. And that really comes down to choosing the right business model and making sure you have the right $1 million offer behind you. You see, one of the biggest misconceptions that's involved with marketing and with business is that it's 1,000,000 times harder to sell something for $1 million than it is to sell something for $1, when in reality, you're going to need to put in, well, maybe not the same amount of effort, but still a considerable amount of effort, whether you're selling something for $1, for $10, for $1,000. Essentially, the amount of work is going to be relatively similar. It's just going to look slightly different depending it is on what you're selling. I remember back when I used to be a business jet captain and I was frequently involved in the sale and acquisition of new business jets. These things would frequently sell for $30 million or $60 million. And I remember clients showing up almost with cash in hand, ready to buy. My job as the pilot was pretty simple. I would just walk them through the plane, explain a few things, and then really they'd pretty much be ready to buy. Contrast this with my early experience in sales when I used to work at a sporting goods store and sold running shoes and things like that. And I remember spending hours and hours with customers trying to find the perfect shoe for them just to make a $100 sale. The point here is that in order to set yourself up for success right from the start, well, you really have to understand and appreciate kind of the differences in business models and the differences in offers and pricing and all of the things available to you that you could sell, so you make sure that you choose the right one for you. Again, selling that business jet, well, it really wasn't that much harder than selling the running shoes. And it's also a whole lot more fun. So with that said, let's hop over to the whiteboard and I'm gonna break down the structure of kind of different offers that you could sell in different price points in order to help you get to that coveted $1 million. So let's head there now. All right, so here we are at the whiteboard with a bunch of different offers kind of laid out, but all showing you the same thing, which is how to get to that $1 million mark a year in your business. So obviously at the very top of the spectrum, we've got $1 million, which is selling one thing for $1 million. Now, this happens all the time when we're talking about things like business jets and expensive boats and things like that, kind of those things that we associate with luxury and the super rich. But the reality is that lots of other stuff goes for $1 million. I mean, even houses around Vancouver and Los Angeles and Toronto and New York, these frequently go for $1 million. So just to give some perspective, that's one way to hit $1 million. The other option you have is you could sell 10 things for $100,000. Again, let's think about something like maybe expensive cars or maybe less expensive houses or anything like that. But again, it's not going to be that much harder to sell 10 things at $100,000 than some of the areas down here. So moving right along, you could sell 100 things at $10,000. Think about high-end watches, or think about high-end consulting or business-to-business packages, things like that. Moving right along, we've got 1,000 things at $1,000. This is really common in the online course space or some basic digital marketing packages or basic consulting or coaching packages. So any of those could be sold. And then lastly, you could sell 100,000 items at $100. And I'm going to advise that this is much more challenging because in order to sell 100,000 of anything, you're really going to need to make sure that all of your marketing is completely dialed in. Your funnel's on point, your ads on point, basically everything is working for you, which is why if you can, try to graduate a little higher up the spectrum. It'll just make things easier moving forward. Okay, so now that you've seen all of the different options available and what you can charge and kind of different combinations and basically the math behind how to generate that $1 million, well, the next part is choosing the right one for you. Now, obviously, just through this video, I can't decide on the perfect program for you. It could be one-on-one consulting, it could be a group coaching program, it could be an online course. Whatever it is, let's say for simplicity's sake that we decide to go for a 3-month group coaching program for $10,000. just for nice, easy math. So once we have that, well, the next step is to reverse engineer it all the way down to the very first dollar so we can figure out how we're going to hit these numbers. Essentially what this means is building out a marketing funnel. And what a marketing funnel is, if you've not heard of one before, is really just the process or the customer journey or the steps that a customer has to go through, all the way from having no idea who you are, to learning about you, to knowing, liking, and trusting you, ultimately to purchasing and becoming that lifelong and loyal customer. Now, when it comes to marketing funnels, there's a pretty much infinite amount of funnels available and an infinite amount of different combinations, including content funnels and video funnels and basic sales funnels and funnels with upsells and downsells and all sorts of stuff. So it can get a little complicated a little quickly. However, to generate $1 million a year, you can actually do this with a really simple funnel. So for simplicity's sake, let's keep ours to just 3 steps. We'll say an ad on the very front end. We'll send them to a landing page or an opt-in page where you can collect their name and email, give them something of value, and then we'll lead them to a sales call, which is ultimately where you're going to make the final conversion piece, and you can sell them into that 3-month group coaching program for $10,000. Now at this stage, I could walk you through all the numbers and just try to describe them, but I think it's going to be a lot easier if we head back over to the whiteboard and I map out the math behind it so you can see how this all works and how it might apply to your business and your offer. So let's head back. All right, so here we are back at the whiteboard, and what you can see on the board right now, well, it might look a little bit confusing. All sorts of different numbers, all sorts of different metrics, so let me break those down for you to make it crystal clear. Now, the examples that are on the board right now, well, they're just that. They're examples. So when you go through this in your business, and I highly suggest that you do map out a customer journey, you do map out a funnel, obviously the numbers are going to change. But with all that said, let's take a look. So the first thing that you're going to realize are the 3 steps of the funnel that we talked about just a second ago. We've got the ad, we're sending them to a landing page, and then from the landing page, we're directing them to a sales call. That final piece over here, that's when they actually become customers. And we put that on the board just so that we can sort of attribute the amount or the dollar amount, the cost that we had to spend in order to acquire that customer. So for simplicity's sake, let's say that we're going to run an ad and we're going to get 500 clicks on the ad. Well, once we've got 500 clicks, we have to take a look at the conversion rate. And the conversion rate is what the number of clicks, how many of those turn into actual leads. Because the reality is not everybody who clicks on your ad or watches your video or goes through your webinar or has a conversation or anything like that, well, not 100% of them convert, which is why a funnel, well, typically looks like a funnel. It starts big at the top and it gets more narrow at the bottom. So if we've got 500 people, and we'll assume a 25% conversion rate, which is pretty decent, pretty standard for a traditional landing page where we're going to offer something of value in exchange for the customer's name and email. Well, with that said, that's going to give us 125 leads. So now we're at this stage on our landing page with 125 leads. Next, on that landing page, we're going to offer the next step in the funnel, which is going to be to a sales call. Now from there, let's assume only 5% of people take us up on the sales call, which works out to 6.25 sales calls. So let's just say 6 for easy math. So this is going to leave us with 6 sales calls. And from there, this is when you have the opportunity to pitch your service, to engage and interact and provide value, and essentially do your sales call. Obviously, not everybody on the sales call is going to convert, so let's assume that we've got a 20% conversion rate from sales call into actual customer. Well, this is going to leave us with 1.25 customers. Again, for easy math, let's say just 1 customer. So that's all great, right? That's all nice and simple and really just a basic funnel broken down with the math. Now I appreciate if this is the first time you're ever running an exercise like this, you may need to rewatch this part of the video a few times to really let it sink in. But this is pretty much the exact same process I use with every business that I have and with every single one of my clients and my students' businesses. We map it out, we break it down piece by piece, figuring out the total number of people we're going to need, the total number of conversions we're going to need, and then ultimately the costs associated with each step, which is really where the money is made. So let's take a look at that now. So taking a look at the costs on the bottom, you can see that we're going to average roughly, let's say $3 cost per click, which is CPC, cost per click. So if we spend $3 cost per click and 500 clicks, well, obviously we're going to be spending $1,500 on the front end. So $1,500 in ads gets us 500 clicks. With this conversion rate of 25%, that's going to get us 125 leads, and those leads are going to be $12 per lead. Now, of these leads, 5% of them are going to turn into sales calls. You can see we're now spending $240 a sales call. This is going to start to look a little bit expensive. Thinking, wow, I'm going to spend $240 just for a sales call. But if we do the math, you'll see that this funnel, at least the way that it's presented here, is actually incredibly profitable and incredibly lucrative. So from that, our $240 sales calls, we've got 6 of them. One of them converts into customers. So a 20% conversion rate on the sales call. And you can see that we're now acquiring 1 customer from our $1,500 ad spend, which means our cost of acquisition for a customer, our customer acquisition cost, or CAC, is $1,500. Now, why is that exciting? Well, essentially what this means is that the way that this funnel is optimized means we're able to put in $1,500 and we're able to acquire a $10,000 customer back out. After all, before we hopped over here, we discussed that the example offer we're going for here is a $10,000 3-month group coaching program. So knowing that we're going to make $10,000 for every $1,500 we put in, well, how often are you going to do this? I'd like to think as much as you possibly can, right? All right, let's head back to the computer. Pretty exciting, hey. I mean, after all, if you're able to spend $1,500 and you're able to acquire a $10,000 customer, you pretty much have an automated money-making machine. And then all you have to do is, well, take a look back and figure out, well, how many of these $10,000 packages are you going to need to sell to hit your $1 million or to your $10 million or even your first $100,000? And the math gets pretty simple. Now, obviously, there's nuances here. The devil's in the details, and you're going to need a really good offer. You're going to need good targeting. You're going to need good marketing and ads and funnels and all of that stuff. But assuming that you can work on those pieces, and again, totally doable, especially if you watch some of the other videos I have on the channel on these exact same topics, well, you'll realize really quickly that hitting that 7-figure mark is totally attainable. Now, with all that said, there are a couple things that you do need to be aware of to make sure that you're on the right path. Specifically 2 different metrics known as CAC and CLV. So we'll cover those in just a second. But the reality is that the funnel that was just presented there, well, not all funnels are created equal. That one happened to work out great, but not all of them are going to, which is why you really need to be aware of these 2 metrics, CAC, CLV, which stands for customer acquisition cost and customer lifetime value. So let's talk about why those are so important. First, let's talk about CLV, customer lifetime value, also known as LCV or lifetime customer value or LTV, lifetime value. Basically, they all mean the same thing, which is how much is a customer worth to your business over their entire lifetime. Now, the reason this metric is so incredibly important to know is because it's going to dictate how much money you can spend on the front end in order to acquire a customer. For example, if a customer is only worth $1,000 to your business, well then this funnel wouldn't work at all because we had to spend $1,500 or $1,500 in order to acquire a $1,000 customer. Meaning, if you start acquiring customers, you're going to be losing $500 with every customer you get, which is obviously an absolutely terrible funnel. But again, it explains the importance of really being strategic and mapping out each stage of your funnel just to make sure that doesn't happen. The next metric that you need to know is CAC, or customer acquisition cost. Again, what this number is how much do you have to spend in order to acquire a new customer. Now, through the funnel that we just looked at, the CAC was $1,500. That's how much we spent on the front end, and we were able to generate 1 customer. Again, not all funnels, not all channels are created equal. Some of them are going to do better for your business. Maybe your business is going to be better suited for YouTube organic strategy, or maybe a podcast strategy, or maybe Facebook ads, or maybe organic Instagram. Again, there's a ton of variables, and I've got a lot of videos on the channel again that'll walk you through how to pick the right one for you, but you need to understand and appreciate that not all channels are going to deliver the same results for your business. Anyway, where this gets really exciting and where it gets really valuable for you is something I call the magic metric, which again is really simple math, like all of this stuff is. And that's simply when your customer lifetime value is worth more than your cost to acquire a customer. Essentially, this is when you have that money-making magic machine where you put in $1 and you get $2 out, or you put in $1 and you get 5 or 10. Sometimes even 20 back out. And that is how you grow consistently and scalably and profitably to that 7-figure, multi-7-figure, 8-figure, and beyond level. So now that you know the system and the math behind how to create and generate $1 million a year in your business, the next thing is really dialing in and crafting your offer, as well as some other important marketing principles, which is why the next thing you're gonna wanna do is check out the video I have linked up right here. So make sure to check that out now, and I'll see you in the next episode.